Well, yeah, I just started part 4 because I did the interludes after part 3, and then I think I'm on the first chapter of part 4.
Okay. Wow. Holy cow. Yeah.
And I was like, so I've been listening to it too, and I was like, okay, so I've got to be getting close to done, right? No, there's still a part 5 to go, and
Holy cow, man.
right? And I was like, oh my gosh, because I thought part 4 was going to be it, but no. I feel like I've been listening.
I'm surprised at how you're almost done. Holy cow.
2 more parts, and they seem like I've been on this thing forever. So, yeah.
No, you went through that. You went through book 2 way faster than you went through book 1.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Do you think, as far as everything you've covered so far, don't give me any spoilers, but do you think it's better than book 1? Do you like book 2 better?
There's a lot more intrigue going on in book 2, definitely. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what all you've gotten to. I can't remember where it.
Yeah.
Book but like, ends. But yeah, there's a lot more, political intrigue and maneuvering and,
Well, so where I am at the end of book 1 is, or at the end of part 1 is, I can't remember his name, but the light eyes that Kaladin saves, and he decides not to take the
Amaranth.
Yeah, Amaranth, Lord Amaranth. Yeah. Part 1 ends with he shows up at Dalinar's camp, and him and Dalinar are like good buds, and Kaladin's like, oh crap,
Right.
And that's the cliffhanger that it ends on. Which is pretty good, because I'm wondering, how is he going to remember Kaladin, or is Kaladin going to kind of hide from him, or how are they going to work that out?
Right.
Which that's where my mind is at right now, is how that all is going to play out.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's a good, because I kept thinking, we were talking about how in the first book we kept thinking, well, how is Dalaran or Dalinar and Kaladin gonna meet up at some point? Like, how are they gonna end up in the same, same situation together? And now, reading all of part 1, I kept thinking, when is he gonna tell Dalinar that he is experiencing these changes, and help him start to reform the Knight's Radiance? And I had not even thought about Lord Amaranth or that whole story. And then whenever it comes up here, it's like, oh crap, that's been behind the scenes the whole time. Right. Why didn't I think of that? This is gonna happen. So it's really good. I'm enjoying the book. I think that I am ready for it to pick up. Oh, and I forgot about Shallan's story.
Yeah.
And so in her story in part 1, she has, so it starts out on the ship. You're kind of seeing her character. She's trying to learn to be more like Yasna, and how Yasna is commanding, and she's wanting to learn to be that. And while she's going through all that, just out of the pure blue sky, out of nowhere, those Black Hand people or whatever they're called, the people that she recognized from the first book, that tried to kill Yasna, they just show up on the ship and they seemingly kill Yasna. I'm kind of suspicious if she's really dead, but as far as I know, as far as they've revealed so far, she's dead. And and Shallan turns the boat into water. and then they all shipwreck. And so she ends up on the shore. By the way, she has no idea. She was trying to save the sailors. As far as they were tied up, as far as we know, they drowned to death. She might have killed everybody on the boat. So it's kind of a weird plan, really.
Right, it was.
But that whole part it was really neat how it just like it came out of nowhere, and they pointed out that like Yasna's door wouldn't lock. So I was thinking, oh, I bet the people on the ship somehow like set this up, you know.
Well, the one guy,
That's right.
the main guy was like the ship hand that they had just met. So, but like, I definitely, I'm suspicious of her death too. Even though Shallan sees them drive a knife through her heart, I'm still suspicious too. So,
oh yeah. Well, so the reason I'm suspicious is because Yasna says, whenever she goes into the room, she says, I was expecting to trip over the lifeless body of, I'm sorry, Shallan says this. I was expecting to trip over the body of Yasna, and I didn't. And I was just thought, why'd they even put that sentence in there? You know, like,
right.
Brandon Sanderson, every sentence means something. He doesn't write fluff.
Right.
Like, that body was not there, you know? Otherwise, he wouldn't have pointed it out. But speaking of which, along those same lines, I forgot to bring this up when we finished the first book. So when we finished the first book, I went back and watched one of those videos that was like things you might have missed from the Way of Kings. And one thing that I definitely did just kind of like read in passing and just didn't really soak it in was there's a sentence where Shallan mentions that she's held a shard blade before. And in those scenes where she makes the boat turn in the water, she's her little vision is telling her to summon her blade and fight. And I thought that's what she was going to do, and then she didn't do it. I have a theory, you might know, so I'm afraid to say, but I think that when she killed her father, she got a shard blade, maybe. She had to kill somebody to get one, right? Like that's how it works.
It is.
She's already admitted that she's I don't know if she's I'm pretty sure she killed her father. I think she admitted it. I think she as much as admitted that she had something to do with his death anyway.
Right. There's definitely been allusions to it at this point.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. That's my suspicion is that she has that. But something else from the first book that we didn't talk about is the preludes, like at the end of the book, the like conclusion chapters. And there was the one where Wit was in like a prison cell somewhere, and then one of the like Knights Radiance or something like wakes up and he thinks he's in a different time period, or Wit says that he's in the wrong time period. What was that all about?
Right.
Have you gotten any answer on that yet?
No. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I did too. I thought about it after we did the last episode.
Wit is interesting.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's definitely more of a factor. Well, he become I wouldn't say a factor. He just pops up in the second book a few times. I don't know. I feel like he's like a kind of like a watcher type character.
He definitely knows more than all the other
knows more, but he's not like, I don't think he's not supposed to be one of the Radiants. I think he's more than that. He's like a Loki type character, like he's like a mischief type.
Yeah.
I think he's a mischief type god of some sort that knows what's coming and knows what's happening, and he enjoys like stringing people along and making a game out of it and stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think he is on like Kaladin's side, and Dalinar's side. I just don't think he's like going out of his way either, just like walking up and say, hey, here's what I know, here's what's going to happen. You got to get ready for this. He's not like that. He's, like I said, he's the mischief kind of guy. So I like him, and again, you'll learn a few things about him, and he'll just randomly pop up here and there. But I'm very intrigued by what what he is or what he could be or whatever.
Yeah, he definitely seems to know what's going on, and I feel like he's like preparing for something. Like he's not a Knights Radiant, but I think that he has something to do with preparing these people to come together.
Right.
But then it brings back to our question we had last week of like, why doesn't he just say what his intentions are, you know? And he may have a good reason not to, you know, like last week we were talking about, we didn't understand why Kaladin was not just going to Dalinar and saying, you know, hey, I think I might be one of these Knights Radiance people. I'd like to help you put the group back together. And he talks about how he struggles trusting a Light Eyes. Like he basically is at the point where if he is going to trust the Light Eyes, it will be Dalinar.
It's going to be this one.
He doesn't know if he's ready to yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then at the end of part 1, he's just like, I knew it. I knew I was right about these guys. Yeah.
I knew not to trust him. I knew it. Yeah. The Dalinar, you know, they're thinking, or at least Kaladin's thinking is, you know, like Light Eyes are still like this next station, you know, and like the word of a Light Eyes kind of thing, you know, it's you know, you put more stock into, you know, so whatever Kaladin even says, he's not going to trust that Dalinar is going to listen to him because, you know, obviously they're friends, and obviously like to be a friend with Dalinar means that Dalinar holds him in some sort of esteem,
right?
And so for Kaladin to go and say, hey, this guy did this, you know, even though he believes in Dalinar, I don't think he trusts that Dalinar will listen simply because, hey, this guy is who he, you know, again, Sadeas was one way on the outside,
right?
But underneath, he, you know, maybe Dalinar will be more willing to listen to something at that point as well. But you know, it's a hard decision for Kaladin to make, and you know, you'll definitely see what happens. But yeah, it's good. You know, there's along with the Shallan thing too. Did she? I'm trying to think. Was she on the shore? I guess.
Yeah, where her story leaves off in part 1, she actually gets picked up by the slavers. And
okay, so you got that far, and that's the same slaver that had Kaladin.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that Tivat or whatever.
Yeah,
that was the guy that was Kaladin's slaver.
Wow. Okay, and they're going to Dalinar's camp or they're going to that. I forget what they call that area. Because she has been like betrothed to marry Dalinar's son, Adolin.
Right.
Adolin's not even mentioned that. So did Yasna did that? Well, you know, I don't want you to spoil it, but like, I'm wondering where I'm at in the book. I'm wondering if Yasna was saying that, but she really didn't have that all completed yet. And then now that Yasna has supposedly passed away, is she still betrothed to Adolin, or is that still going to work out?
Well, I think, you know, they had her and Adolin and what's the Navani? I think that's
that's
her mom.
Yeah,
I think they had agreed in principle to the betrothal.
Yeah,
but you know, obviously
they still have to meet and
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But and also like, you know, they're shipwrecked now, like, and so they're expecting them to show up.
Yeah.
And you know, so who knows what's going to happen when, you know, no news of the ship arrives and no news of where Yasna or Shallan are or anything else. So I mean, it definitely, you'll find out, definitely. God, there's a lot that that
I know.
happens.
I'm so far behind you, man. I don't know why I haven't been. I've been listening while I've been driving to work. I don't know. Maybe I've been driving less lately, but I have not physically read any. I've just been listening to this one.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I feel like that's faster anyway. So
Right.
I'm just trying to catch up as fast as I can. I have been listening to, the Glass Hotel, but I've been listening to it only at night. I haven't been listening to it while I was driving to work. I've been dedicating that time to just Stormlight Archive, and that's where I make the most progress is doing that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to like try to like really burn through it and catch up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it gets good, and you know, I can definitely see at the beginning where, like, with the Kaladin thing running up on, you know, on them, and you know what happens with Shalon and all that. It's like you want it to hurry up and get to it, like.
Yeah.
Hurry up and let me know, like, you got to get together, you got to do this. And then
Yeah.
you think, you know, we're still on book 2 of, was it 6 books, 5 books, or whatever it is going to be? So, like,
I think it's going to be 10 books total. But he's on he's on like book 5 or something.
Yeah, right. I think book 5 is one that's coming out.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's like, well, there's a lot that's going to happen, apparently. Like, I don't even know if this war, or obviously there's some kind of war coming up.
Yeah.
You know, is that even like the penultimate thing of this series? You know, this might just be the first little blip in a huge overarching story. Like,
yeah, I don't know what to expect.
I feel like that is what's coming, because so I don't know, in the interludes and things like that are very interesting. Have you heard the one about the shoemaker yet?
No, I just did the first interlude, and I didn't listen to it all the way. And I remember when I was listening to it, I was catching on to what it was. Oh yeah, so I only listened to the very first part of it before I stopped. But it began with them describing what I'm pretty sure was a Parshendi, and I think it may have been the Parshendi Shardbearer that was looking for Dalinar.
Okay.
That was what I kind of pieced together just from the first couple sentences, but then I quit listening.
Okay.
I haven't listened to the whole thing. I'll tell you one thing about the Parshendi that I'm hoping is not true, but I think they've already confirmed that it really is. And I just don't like it because it reminds me of Ender's Game. But the way the Parshendi like have like this like connected consciousness kind of thing, like Yasna kind of came to that realization like in her like final scenes before she got attacked.
Right.
And I suspected that in the first book because they would all sing together and stuff as they were fighting. And it also just, they treat it so much like sport that it feels like to the Parshendi, like this is not necessarily war, you know, the way it is for the humans or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was worried, and I'm not saying they're going to do this, but I was worried in reading the first book that the conclusion was going to be like Ender's Game, where it's like, well, to this alien race, they don't see killing an individual as like the ultimate crime, because to them there is no individual, they're all one consciousness. And so I'm hoping that the conclusion of this Parshendi storyline is not that like, oh well, they all share consciousness, so to them this is sport, and they don't necessarily think of this as killing, you know. I mean, if there's so much more to the story than just that conflict, so I mean it wouldn't be like the ultimate sin, but it would feel really similar to Ender's Game. And the fact that the book has an open with a comment from Orson Scott Card, that it's like, man, it's like really close.
I will say you will learn a lot about the Parshendi and their history and a lot of that stuff. And I won't say it's not like that, but it's not it's not all like that. It's got a, they're in the same area, but they're not, same zip code or anything. They're definitely
yeah. Well, if the only commonality is this that they have a shared consciousness, then that's whatever. That's in so much of sci-fi and fantasy. Yeah.
You still don't know 100% about the consciousness, at least. I mean, I think in a way they do, but in a way it's different. But you will learn about what the singing and humming and things that they do and what that means and all that stuff. So, and that's some pretty interesting world building stuff there. Like, and like I said, you learn like a lot of their history and why they're there and what they're about and why there's Parshendi and why there's Parshman and
and
different things like that. Yeah, you'll learn all about that stuff.
Yeah, because I've been really curious about that all along.
And it's
that's good to know.
Now did I'm pretty sure in that first section with Yasna that they talked about what her theory is of what the Parshmen are.
So that's where I got the shared consciousness thing from. So Yasna fears that because they're able to communicate the way they do, where they are able to kind of share they have some sort of shared thoughts or telepathy or something. I don't know. She sees that they're able to communicate without actually speaking, and she's worried that we have become so reliant on the Parshmen, and that they could at any moment just be sent, a trigger to like
Order
activate.
66. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Order 66. Yeah, exactly. She is worried about that scenario.
And you know what she thinks they are?
Oh yeah, that was at the end of the first book.
About the void bringer. About she thinks
bringers. Yeah,
she thinks they are the void bringers.
We enslave them. Yeah, that's what she says at the end of the first book.
That's right. Yeah. So that's her thinking is that the enemy is essentially hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, and I get that concept, but I didn't quite get what she meant by that. Like, so I remember that came from the passages where it said that the Voidbringers had like skin of fire and ash, and that was really good because that was foreshadowing, and I never put that together: fire and ash, red and black, and then at the end of the book, like she explains it to Shalon that like fire and ash, it's like the marbled red and black skin, and we didn't kill the Voidbringers, we enslaved them. I don't understand because I thought the Voidbringers were like the big creatures that the Knights Radiance were fighting in the opening of the book.
Well, that's what I thought too. And like in Dalinar's vision, when he sees the big gray,
he thinks they're mountain
creatures. Yeah, and he's looking down off the thing, and they're like the Void Bringers. Yeah. So I think there is definitely like, again, you get it from, which is very cool about this, is you start getting this conflict from both sides. So you get like from the human side, but now like as this book goes along, you're getting the reasoning and whys and all that stuff from the Parshendi side, and why they're fighting this war, and what their hopes or the outcomes is, and like it's hard to say like if with as far as the Void Bringers, I don't know. Like I think she's definitely got something there as far as maybe they are, but when I look at it from their side, it's like just from the text, because you don't know at this point, even where I'm at, if they are or not. But you at least from the way they interact, they don't know they are if they are. Like
yeah.
So like that's going to be very interesting, and they, um, yeah, I think you'll really dig the background and their world building is pretty cool. It's oh god, if I could compare, the oh, I can't remember the name of the episode. The episode where Picard goes to the planet and he has to talk to the guy and they have to learn the language.
Yeah.
Okay, so like their society is a lot like that. I get that feel out of it. Like they talk in like, and there's different. You'll find out there's different aspects to their society and things like that, which is really cool.
When the walls fell and with arms
right,
wide,
with arms wide, yeah.
Picard's like, I don't know what you're saying.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
And even like
just on a side note, like that's a good episode, but it's like the Federation and all of these people have been trying to communicate with this species for like 30 years or something, and like made zero progress, not a ounce of progress. I mean, there's communication experts, there's like, a whole like civilization of specialists that are and you got Data that are just dedicated to this concept of interpreting unknown languages. Picard gets shipwrecked with these people. The guy says like 4 phrases over and over again, and then Picard figures it out.
Figures it out. Yeah, exactly. That's why Picard is Picard.
So crazy.
That's
so funny. Oh man. I'm sorry though. What were you gonna say?
No, I was pretty much done there. But I mean, like, but as far as that, yeah, it's like, there's definitely, and speaking of when you're talking about the fire and ash, which I don't know if they called this out before, but there are different colored Parshendi too.
Yeah, I think they did mention
there's white
sometimes.
There's white with the red, and then there's black with the red.
Yeah, okay.
And so and I keep thinking of the way they look as something like markings like Kratos from God of War. Like, they're like just kind of have like almost tiger stripe things on them. I don't know, like I've never seen a
so there's a lot of fan art for Stormlight Archive, and there might even be art in the book. In the book, there's a lot of, so the way they illustrate the book is by it's by Shalon's like notebook stuff that she draws.
Right.
There might be a drawing in here of it, but I've looked up a lot of the stuff that was hard for me to kind of imagine. I looked it up because there's a lot of fan art online.
Like those like smoke,
like those like smoke beast things from the first dream that Dalinar has in the first book. I had to look those things up because that sounded really cool. I kind of wish that there was more of those in the story. I'm just flipping through. I don't see anything from the Parshman. So I probably saw it in someone's fan art online.
Yeah, I see a couple different versions of him.
But like marbled, like almost like if you twisted Play-Doh together but not enough to mesh it into one color.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of scaly, lizardy.
Yeah, and I think the Parshmen are more like humanoid looking with like skin like ours, but then the Parshendi, they're like more warrior style. They, Kaladin like cuts their like scale pieces off and makes armor out of it in the first book. So they have like big shell growths or something on them. They have like an exoskeleton.
Chasm Fiend.
Yeah, there's a drawing of a Chasm Fiend in there. Well, I'm excited for the rest of the series. I got to catch up with you. I think this in the coming week, I need to just focus on trying to listen, and if I can, if I can get through part 2 quickly and then move on to part 3, I won't be that far behind you. But you'll finish the book. You'll finish the book before I will. We'll have to try to catch up before you start the third book. The third book
I'm definitely going to take a break after this one for a little bit. So, it'll be
my expectation was to take a break and then I got behind you, so I jumped right in it.
Right.
But I need to pick up the Drawing of the Three.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to start reading as my second.
Would that be that'd be a good little break in the thing there.
Yeah, I wish I had started it instead of the Glass Hotel.
Get it over with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So school being over and not quite over. Cooper still got a few days this week, but he just graduated.
I saw he got like a reading award.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So like,
I saw that. So on Facebook.
They do all throughout the year that it's called accelerated reading.
Yeah. I did that when I was a kid. Yeah.
You read a book and then you go online and take a test on the book and you get points for the book and stuff like that. So he was number 1 in 4th grade last year and 5th grade this year. So he got the most points out of everybody.
That's crazy.
And then
that's good.
The reason he was able to win it this year, he said there was some girl that was in a different class that had pulled ahead of him, and he read Salem's Lot.
Oh wow, yeah.
And got enough points from that.
That's impressive.
And then so like after graduation, I was like, you did good as far as the reading thing, and he was like, yeah, he's like, for like a gift or whatever, he's like, go take me to the Books A Million.
Yeah.
So went to Books A Million. He bought 3 books. He got 3 Stephen King books, obviously.
Nice.
He got Carrie.
Okay.
He got Thinner.
Oh.
And he got what was the other one? Carrie, Thinner, and Firestarter.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. I was going to ask you if we should watch the series for the podcast.
Right.
A movie.
It's just a movie, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've heard good things about the first movie was pretty good. That had Drew Barrymore when she was a little kid.
Oh wow.
And then the book is really good. He's all about some telekinetic kids in some way. He's got Carrie, he's got Firestarter, he's got the Institute, which is a later book, and it's all kids with psychic powers. So he likes that kind of stuff.
Walking around zapping everybody.
Yeah, I know, right? So now Cooper's all into. He started Thinner, which is
what's Thinner about?
Thinner is a story where a guy, he's a lawyer. He on accident, not paying attention. He was actually getting like a in the car hand job. Accidentally hits an old gypsy woman.
Oh no!
And kills her and winds up getting out of it. It's just like a little small town in Maine or whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And he gets out of it, and and he's this big fat guy.
Yeah.
And after the trial, the old husband, like touches his face, and he says Thinner, like that, and basically curses him. The guy starts losing weight, and then it's like crazy because he can't stop losing weight. Right. And it gets to the point of, you ever seen what is that Christian Bale movie, The Machinist, where he's crazy, it starts getting like that, and he's trying to figure out a way to get the curse off of him and stuff. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good story. It's
That's
a small
wild.
book. It's bigger than a novella, but it's not quite what you think of a big Stephen King novel. It's
Right.
maybe a couple hundred pages, so he'll probably blow through that. And it's good. Like I said, it's pretty entertaining story.
Yeah,
And it's got some mentions of other characters from other stories in it, which is kind of cool too. So
that's really neat. That's good that he likes doing the accelerated reader. My younger sister did. She was really good at it.
yeah,
She probably would have been the other girl that was competing with him. I only ever did The Hobbit. I remember that was the only book I did for accelerated reader was The Hobbit, I think. And
well, I couldn't believe that some of the books that were in it, which I don't know if it goes per grade or whatever, but like I figured he's going to read Stephen King books, and being in fifth grade, that they wouldn't be a test for like,
yeah,
something like that. But he was like, yeah, there's tests for basically anything,
it's
no
been
matter
around for a
how,
long time.
right, no matter how adult the book is, there's still a test for it.
That's pretty funny.
Because that's why I thought like some might be too adult for him, or
Right.
for them to put tests out for. But
Yeah, I was
hey,
surprised there was a Stephen King book in there.
right. But apparently they're all there. He said that there was something he said that he took for. Oh, he read a couple of stories from one of his short story books,
Hmm.
and he was going to take a test on just the short story, but it wouldn't let you. You had to do the whole book as one kind of thing. And that's what he read. There's a follow up, not really a follow up, but it's kind of a semi sequel to Salem's Lot in one of those books. And it's 10 pages or something. It's a pretty cool story.
Hmm.
If you like vampires.
Stephen
But
King
yeah,
vampires are cool.
yes. Salem's Lot is a very good vampire story.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to say that you'll never run into vampires again in
Oh
your
yeah, I'm sure.
in your tower adventure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm sure.
but I'll probably finish this book, and then I might jump into, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to download something else from Audible, but I might kind of listen along, especially once you start reading Drawing of the Three, just so I can refresh stuff and
Yeah.
we can talk about it. But I'll kind of do that on the side. And then, who was it? I meant to talk with you. It's sort of bookish, but the recent deaths of the couple comic book authors and writers.
George Perez passed away.
George Perez
I know
passed
that.
away.
Who was
Yeah.
the other one?
Oh God, who was it? He was always coming to SC Comic Con.
Not. Here, I'll look it up.
I keep saying Neil Gaiman, but that's not right.
Neil Gaiman. You're talking about Adams. Neil Adams.
Neil Adams, maybe.
Holy crap, he did die. I didn't know this.
Yeah. So that was it, Neil Adams.
Holy cow! Yeah, he died this year, so this must have just recently happened.
Yeah, it was a couple months ago, maybe.
It was in April.
Yeah. So yeah.
Somehow I did not see. I did not see the Neil Adams death. I've been disconnected from Facebook and everything recently. I haven't really. I can't believe I missed that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So George Perez, I met at New York Comic Con. Neil Adams, like you said, he was always at SC Comic Con. He's always at Dragon Con too. I've seen him a lot. I've never purchased any art or met him, but David. So when we went to New York Comic Con back in, I don't even know what year that was. David was purchasing original art from like every artist because I think it was rare for him to run into George Perez or somebody like or Neil Adams,
Sure.
because they would come to Australia occasionally, but not like every year. Like you just said, we
Right.
literally had a chance to see Neil Adams more than one time a year, every single year. And so he bought something from him, and he didn't get the drawing finished at the con, and so he had him meet him at like he was going to some like birthday dinner or something afterwards, and it was it was really neat because David like got to like interrupt his like birthday dinner to come in and actually get the drawing from him or whatever.
Right.
He said it was really cool. I'd have to,
That is kind of cool.
he'd have to tell the whole story. I think it was just kind of a moment. Like he didn't get like, they didn't introduce the room to like, hey,
Right.
this is like, but it was just like neat that he kind of got to walk into that moment for a second. But
Right.
that's so crazy that I didn't realize. I saw George Perez. I didn't realize that he had died. I've got it's not real. I have some real original art on the wall, but I have a print of one of his like drawn covers. He was selling those at SC Comic Con, and I needed. So I have 2 original comic book pages, and I just kind of to fill out that space, I needed a third, and so I just bought that print that looks like an original, and he signed it, so it's at least got his signature on it.
There you go.
But man, I didn't realize that it was at the end of last month.
Yeah,
almost a month ago. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. All the great comic artists now are all like, like in their 60s and 70s,
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we have to get a few every year, I guess.
Exactly.
Because of that.
Yeah.
So have you been reading anything else lately, or are you just fully consumed with
No, I've still been reading my Gwendy book. And I keep thinking I'm gonna pick something else up, but I looked at when we were at Books A Million, I looked around and I was like, I saw several things that caught my eye, but like nothing that I was like, man, I'm gonna interrupt, this to read or this. That's my when I'm done with this one, finding something on Audible is going to be like I'm going to sit there forever swiping through stuff, and I typically do like if you went through my Audible library, it's going to be mostly horror and like sci-fi ish, and so like I've tried to branch out and read a couple of other things. So I might look for something a little bit different this time. Like I don't know if I think I told y'all about that book, which is for anybody out there, it's 100% recommended by me book. It's called A Man Called Uva.
Yeah, that's right. You told me about that. It's like a comedy.
And it is so funny, and I mean it makes you laugh, makes you cry. It's like
it's
one of those books that touches every nerve there is.
Yeah, it's like a heartfelt comedy.
Yes.
It's so hard to do that in a novel. I've thought about that so many times. Like it's so hard to write a funny book because you don't have timing. Like you just have to hope that the person reading it will interpret
understands
it comedic timing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean that's so hard to do.
I listened to it, and I even think I told you this. J.K. Simmons, the actor, is the guy that narrates and stuff.
Yeah,
and he does a great job. Like, and I mean, it's just it just touches you. Like, I mean, if you need like a pick me up sometime, just read that. But now, like I said, there's be parts in it that'll just you're crying your eyes out because it's just it's sad and things like that. But like, yeah, it's fantastic, and it's like I said, it's my dad recommended it to me, and it was it's I don't know what country he's from. He's Scandinavian of some sort, like Swedish or something like that. And I've read a couple different books from authors over there. Like, have you ever read any of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo books or anything
No,
like that?
I saw the first movie, but I haven't read any of
So
the books.
those books are really good. That's a Scandinavian guy. And then
Yeah.
there's another guy that writes. I've read it's a book called
Hmm.
The Snowman, and he writes it's a whole series of books with this detective, and they're like the Snowman or like the Ice Pick or whatever. It's like 1 or 2 word titles, and
Yeah.
it's all about like he's solving serial killer murders or whatever, and those are pretty good. I'm like, man, these guys like they must have a lot of free time over there in the all ice and snow just to sit there and write cool ass stories because
Yeah.
like all the Norwegian or whatever guys that I've read have all been
Yeah.
like on point with their stories. Like, and the girl with the dragon tattoo stuff is like the movie was good, but the books are like obviously so
Yeah.
much better. Um, and then what's interesting with those books, which I don't know if you know, is the guy Stieg Larsson. He's the guy that wrote those.
Hmm.
There's uh the girl with the dragon tattoos, the first one, then there's
The
like the girl with the hornet's nest, the
Kick the
kick the
Hornet's
hornet's
Nest.
nest,
Yeah.
and then there's the other one which is
That's the only
the
two names I know.
the girl who played with fire.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the girl who played
And I
with
can't
fire.
remember which one of this was second, which one was third. And then there's 1 or 2 more, but he died
Oh, yeah.
writing. He was writing the third book, and this other guy, um, his the Stieg Larsson's wife gave him all the notes, and he finished the book, and then he's written 1 or 2 others.
That's wild.
Um,
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
but they're good. Like even the ones that the other guy wrote, it's pretty smooth transition, which is weird. That's got to be like a
That's
hard thing to
wild.
do.
Yeah.
Like pick up in the middle of because last week we talked about people co-writing, but when you actually have to like
Yeah. Like,
finish something that someone has no ability to really input in other than notes,
wow. Yeah,
um,
that's crazy.
that's gotta be kind of cool. Um,
That's
but yeah,
crazy.
like yeah, I don't know. I might, like I said, maybe I'll think of another Scandinavian author, and then I think I told you about Hex, which was the witch book that
Yeah.
that's another guy that was like Swedish or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and that's a book like if you want a good book, another good book. Whenever you want something kind of smallish, it's not. I won't say it's small, but it's not like it's not like a huge novel.
Yeah.
Just to break up that might be the most horrific book I've ever read.
Oh,
And
no.
like when I say like stuff doesn't really scare me.
Right.
Like even movies, I don't really get scared. Like jump scares in movies one thing, but like to make you actually scared is something else. And like books, that's kind of a hard thing to do, but like
Yeah.
um that's why I say like Stephen King's not scary, but there's some horrific things that happen in his books. And like in that uh Hex book, like the ending, like the last quarter of that book is just oh my god, it's like it'll blow it blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe like this happened. Like it was crazy. Um
I'm gonna have
and
to add
it's
that one to the list.
yeah, it's just
My
called Hex. And the
my
guy
my list is getting like crazy long. I have so many books I'm trying to get through right now.
the guy there's so like so one of the things I did too is like I went through audio listening to basically everything Stephen King did,
Hmm.
and that took like however much time. Then I got to the end, I was like, I need something different, and didn't know kind of where to start or what to look for. So like I would go through and look up like top recommended books by Stephen King. And then I would go through his list and be like, oh, that synopsis sounds cool.
Yeah.
And like I've found so many good books that way, and different authors, and that's one of the ones. Hex was one of the ones that he had recommended, and there's I've come across some pretty good ones. I've come across some that weren't, they were good, but that's the thing I was gonna ask you about is, and that kind of brings it up is, there's books where I've gotten into and been like, this isn't the greatest thing in the world, but I can't put it down and like not read it because I have to know like what happens. Because even if it's a bad story, I'm like, I got to know what happens in this.
So I wouldn't go so far to say it's a bad story, but that's where I kind of feel like I am with the Glass Hotel. And I think in the last episode, I talked about how it kind of got some negative reviews, but most of the negativity was just comparing it to the author's previous success in Station 11. And I can see how this book resembles Station 11. But I can also see what people mean. It's not like a sci-fi. Like I was kind of expecting it to be kind of similar to Station 11, where it has this like element of science fiction to it. Like Station 11 is like post-apocalyptic, and it's like this virus, like, took over. When really it's a very character, it's a very character synopsis. Like you're really interested in all these different characters and their lives. So it's not like deep science fiction. But this book is like basically like an Agatha Christie novel. Like it's like a mystery, and so far there's been no murder, but there's just been sort of like the mystery of like how these people are connecting together, and it's really just like each chapter is just like a different character in the story, and it kind of gives like a little bit of their history and how they ended up working at this hotel. And I don't know when. I'm assuming somebody's gonna get killed, and we're gonna have to try to figure out who did it. But yeah, I'm kind of I'm at the point where what you're saying, where like I want to finish the book, but like as soon as possible. Like I'm ready to move on. I'm not super enthralled by it. I've actually read really good reviews about her newest book, and so I kind of wish I had started on that one. I just wanted to read something by her because I like the TV show Station 11. And I think I made the bad choice. I think the other one is more. I think the other one it deals with time travel, and so it's a little more science fiction-y than like this one. Really, just feels like I'm reading like a novel. Like this feels like a beach novel, like what I would read like sitting on a beach or something.
Right.
But to give you a little bit of the plot of the book and tell you about some of the characters, it starts out telling the story. So the very first chapter of the book is it's like 2 pages. It's really short, and it's just little excerpts of like people's thoughts. And there's 8 different thoughts, like different little moments. And as you jump into chapter 2 and start reading from there, you start figuring out whose moments these were on this first page. But like the main, like there, I don't even know who the main character is, but in the first chapter, the main character is this guy who has like struggled with drug abuse and addiction, and his family has basically like kind of like turned their back on him, kind of given up on him, kind of thing. And he goes to business school as kind of like his last chance. Like he has a family member that gives him enough money to enroll in some business classes, and he could care less about business, but it's just like this is like his chance to like prove that like he can just like be a normal person and not end up in rehab. And he is in Ontario. He's in Canada, in a big city, and he basically is just like lonely. Like that's kind of the interesting thing for me about that first chapter. And I can kind of relate to this just through some of my friends and family members that I know have went through a similar thing, where it's like whenever you struggle with addiction, a lot of times people give you second chances and give you more and more chances to the point that they're just like, okay, I can't give you any more chances, like tough
Right.
love kind of thing. You know what I mean? They don't really treat it like a sickness. They treat it like a behavioral problem, which in the beginning it may be, but then it eventually becomes like a sickness. And that isolation just causes you to be drawn to more addiction. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so in reality, what they think they're doing to help you, they're actually enabling you by allowing you to be that isolated. And so it's such a catch-22, you know. And this character's kind of going through this in this town, and he gets offered. He's trying to impress this girl, and he gets offered ecstasy. He takes it for the first time because he's like, well, it's not heroin. It's not, and like all these like kids are doing it recreationally, so this is not that bad, you know. So he takes it, and he doesn't know how he's supposed to react to it because he's never taken it before. Well, this is a major spoiler for the first chapter. He takes it, and then he like passes out, but he just thinks he had a bad reaction to it, and maybe that's the way it, you know, maybe that's just he's never taken it before, his body reacted poorly to it. But he ends up giving the pills to the group of people that he's trying to impress, and then one of the people in the group actually ends up like taking it and like dying from it. And so then the next chapter is him like kind of like fleeing that town. And they don't really clarify like if he's in legal trouble or if he's just trying to get away from, like, everybody kind of knows that he's guilty of this. And
Right.
so he goes looking for his half sister, Vincent, which Vincent, funny name for a girl, but she's a really cool character. They grew up in the same house, but like somehow she's normal. She's like doesn't have an addiction problem. And he kind of resents her for that. And
Right.
The first chapter is like in 1999, and it's funny because it's like New Year's Eve and everybody's worried about Y2K, and so like all that's going on like in the background
Right.
of this. And then the next chapter is like 2008 or something. Like it keeps jumping ahead, but in the next chapter, the same people from the first chapter now all work at this hotel together, and somebody has vandalized the hotel and etched, you know, something in the glass with like an acid marker, and it's like a threatening message, and they don't know who the message is for, and they don't know who did it. And so that chapter is all about like you're curious, like they're kind of going over different people in the hotel's lives and like who might have etched this on the window. Then at the end of the chapter, they reveal who it was. But even when they reveal who it was, I'm questioning. I'm like, well, I feel like this person did it because he was asked to by somebody else. So who asked him to? But then the next chapter, it tells like it's a few years later, and they're explaining like Vincent is now like romantically involved with one of the other people from the hotel that they introduced in that previous chapter, and like, you know, she's like living in France now, and like there's just like all these people just somehow start, you know, intermingling.
Right.
But so far nothing is like, other than the vandalism on the hotel, like there's no mystery of any of this. Like I'm just kind of like reading about these people's lives, and I can relate to some of it. One of the characters like grew up poor, and now they like are living comfortably, and they feel guilty when they're around other people that like are in that scenario that they used to be in. And
Right.
and they talk about how like they feel like she feels like if she makes eye contact with them that they'll be able to see that, like, you know, like, oh, you're not really one of them, you're one of us, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing. And I like all these like elements that they're kind of giving me about these characters, but so far I have no purpose in reading the book, like other than I'm just learning about these people, you know?
Right.
And so to me, that's like the biggest flaw to the story. Now, I can see how it's similar to Station 11, in that Station 11 was kind of a similar thing where it's just like all these little moments of these different characters.
And then it all comes together.
And then it all comes together. Yeah. So like,
Right.
for example, there is a very Station 11 style thing where like there's this one moment in Vincent's life where she vandalized something when she was a little girl. like a teenager, not like a little girl, but she's like 13 or something. She vandalizes something at her school, and then she gets in trouble for it. And throughout the other chapters, I'm learning more. Like, it keeps flashing back to that story and like telling a little bit more of that story, which is very like Station 11, style, storytelling. So, but yeah, I'm just ready to get through it at this point. I feel like, I'm about like a fourth of the way in here. I mean, I'm not like at the beginning, but I'm not like in the middle of the book, but at the same time, I feel like I'm far enough in the book that like something should have happened. Like somebody should have got killed, and we're trying to figure out who killed it or something like. But like literally, the only mystery at this point is who vandalized the hotel and why. And to me, that's just not like, the stakes are not very high in that, right? Like
right.
Some janitor has to clean a window, and they wrote a whole book about it. Yeah. But I'll tell you what I'm missing. And I'll have to work this in our next cycle of books that we're reading. Is I used to read Star Trek books, and I haven't read a Star Trek book in a while. I got like halfway through one that I've got on my shelf here, and then I quit to read Way of Kings. I never went back to it. And at this point, I feel like I got to start it over. Like I've let it go too long now. So maybe after the Glass Hotel, I'll do the Drawing of the Three. And then while I'm reading the Drawing of the Three, I'll probably have finished Words of Radiance. Right. So after Words of Radiance, while I'm still reading Drawing of the Three, I'll pick back up the Star Trek book, maybe.
Well, I was a big fan of the Star Wars books that came out after.
There's like a new one. Yeah.
Well, that's what. So I read like, I don't know. I've got a ton of books that came out after Return of the Jedi back, in the 80s, 90s, whatever. And what's his name? Timothy Zahn. I don't know. He's a pretty famous sci-fi author. Wrote a good number of those, and like the follow-up to the original trilogy, his trilogy is just fantastic. Like such good three books. And then like they decided to come out with the sequels and stuff, and basically made all of those books not canon. So now they're just called legends.
Yep.
And then they brought Timothy Zahn back in to rewrite books. Even bringing like one of the big characters that he came up with, way back when was this guy Grand Admiral Thrawn. So like he was a fan. Everyone loved this guy. And so they've reintroduced him through the cartoons and brought Zahn back in to write new books, but basically had to change how the character is introduced, but still keep his characteristics and stuff. Yeah. But I've refused to go back and read all these new books out of spite. I'm like, because the other ones were so good. Like, when they made the sequel movies, and the lady that runs Lucasfilm, that Kathleen, what's her name? Kathleen Kennedy, I think.
I don't know.
She's like saying how one of the hard things about making those was there was no source material to go by. And it's like, you stupid bitch, like you had all kinds of source material, like it was all there. You could have used it and made this great Heir to the Empire trilogy. Yeah. So don't say there was no source material. But anyway, so like I haven't read any of the new Star Wars books, but I've read just about everything as far as the old Star Wars books. I never read any Star Trek books. That might be something I'd be interested in.
Yeah. Well, they're the same way where like anybody can write a Star Trek book, I think, for the most part. I don't know how hard it is to get like the agreement to do that. It seems like it's pretty easy. But they only consider certain things canon. But there's some really good ones. Did you watch Deep Space Nine?
Oh yeah.
You know, the Cardassian seamstress or seams person. He wrote a book called A Thread. I gotta try to find the name. Let's see, Deep Space Nine book. But it's really popular as being like a really good book. Stitch maybe. Thread. Oh, it's about Garrick, yeah.
Okay,
Deep Space Nine Garrick book. A Stitch in Time. I was gonna guess A Stitch in Time, but I thought that was the name of an episode. Everybody talks about how good that book is. Matter of fact, there's a Abbey Books, A Stitch in Time. I guess this is the first printing or something. It's $117 used.
Grief.
Yeah, it's crazy. But of course, you can get a another printing of it for $9.99 on Amazon. Right. I've actually never read this book, but I know what it's about. So there was a lot of speculation about Garrick's character, and this book was actually written by, I think it's written by the actor that played Garrick. Let me look that up.
Andrew Robinson.
Is that who played Garrick?
I don't know. That's who wrote A Stitch in Time.
Oh, okay. I'm getting a different name when I look it up. Yeah, Andrew Robinson. So let me look up Andrew Robinson.
So I clicked on it on Amazon, and mass market paperback. It's going for $131.62.
Yeah. It is. It's
used.
Yep, that's Garrick. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he Scott raves about how good it is. That's another one that I need to read. God, the list just gets longer and longer. I've heard a lot about this book from Scott that I think I pretty much know. Oh, he's a tailor. What was I trying to think of earlier?
Tailor.
He's a seamster. Yeah, so we got to figure out how to get a cheaper copy of that thing.
Right? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I said you can get a copy for $9.99 on Amazon. That's why I was also confused by the actor/writer's name, because that was a different book. That's a Enigma Tales. But
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, A Stitch in Time is what we're looking for.
Even on thrift books, it's $108.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
So watch for that book if you're ever out at a used bookstore. And see A Stitch in Time, buy that thing. Scott has a copy of it. I don't know where he got it, but I could see it going either way. Scott's the type of person, he loves Deep Space Nine and Garrick. He might have paid $100 for that book, but also he's the type of dude that can just be out at a jockey lot or something and find something like that for like $4.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean?
We were talking about last week that the Sanderson was going to do the all the books with the picture on, put all together, whatever.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember the author, but my brother-in-law is just like that. He's all into vintage toys and comics and different things, and he goes. There's a couple of stores in upstate Georgia, and then Greenville, and a couple other places. And he'll get credit, and he'll go between stores, and like he'll get a bunch of books from one store, and he'll go to another store and sell those books to that store for credit and all that stuff. Oh. But he said he was in some thrift store, and there were these books, and they had a picture on it. When you put it all together, he said it was really cool, and it had the author's name too, and like script. God, I wish I could remember who it was, but he was like, it said it was really cool, and he recognized the name, but he didn't know really anything about him. So it was like, it was only a few bucks, so he bought it, and he got his wife to look it up, and whoever it was a pretty famous person, and that book series was pretty popular and famous, and he wound up reselling it for like 600 and something bucks on eBay or something. It was like a limited edition with the pictograph thing and all that. And I was like, dude, that's why I was like, that's crazy. He's like, he'll go through and just dig through those stores, finding crazy toys that, he knows all about toys too, which is crazy. But he'll find some little figurine in the bottom of some box and be like, struck it rich kind of thing. And
I've gotten lucky with comic dollar bins sometimes, but the thing about comics is, and I guess it's this way with everything, is like knowing, so what you're looking for. You can't be the type of person that goes to a dollar bin and is like, I know this handful of comics I'm looking for. You're never going to find them. You've got to be the type of person that just has such a encyclopedic knowledge that, like, when you look through, you say, oh, that's the first appearance of the character Max. That's the, you have to just like spot it. And a lot of times in dollar bins, your wins are not like, oh, I found this $300 comic. It's like, oh, that's worth like $30. And you find enough of those to make it worth it. But there was this one time where I went to, it was actually a Magic. It was a Magic the Gathering store. This guy he was selling Magic cards, but I guess he had a comic collection that he just wanted to get rid of. And so he just set it out in his store just to like kind of part it out. Anybody that wanted to look through it. And I think he was doing like $2 or $3. And man, I looked through that thing and like, there was like a first appearance of Apocalypse. Like there was like a ton of books that I was just like, I can't believe this is in like a $2 bin, But but the scenario was the guy just didn't care. He just wanted to get rid of those. And there was plenty there that wasn't worth anything, and there was plenty there that was worth something. And he just thought, if I sell them all for $2 a pop, I'll make enough money to make it worth it. Exactly. And I guess I just happened to be one of the first people to look in there, because I got like 5 like really good books for like $2 each. But that's the best look I ever had was that one time. Otherwise, I've probably paid what something was worth, and like, it's just a complete, I'm not making any money if I ever try to sell it, and I don't have the patience to try to sell that stuff. Like I've got a whole bunch of comics here, and I want to get rid of them. I don't even want these things anymore, but like I know that they're valuable enough that I don't want to just like
give them away.
Yeah, I don't want to just give them away, but I also don't want to go through the process of trying to sell them. Like it's a whole man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the patience for it.
That's I've got stuff like that, and with books, and I just tell Cooper, I'm like, yeah, these are all going to be yours, so let him deal with them someday. I just keep collecting them, then like, I dive out, and then he's got to get rid of the books on his own at some point, or he gives them to his kid, and then
and that's the thing too, is like, I don't know. Then you got to trust that they'll know what to do with it, or will they just be like,
like I said, it's just going to keep going. Generations down. These are the sacred texts of our family.
We're passing a curse along, really, is all it is.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly.
Well, I think this was a fun episode.
Yeah.
I hesitate to bring it up because I don't know when I'll have time, but we never did listen to that short story. There was another short story.
Oh yeah, I know, right.
But I got to catch up with you on Stormlight Archive, so I feel like I don't want to dedicate any time to that.
No, yeah, definitely.
Let's give it another week. Let me listen all week this week, and then maybe next week we'll do that short story that we picked.
Okay. I still haven't listened to it. I mean, I know the story, but I still haven't re-listened to it either. So.
I was telling somebody at work today when I told you I had to go in early this morning. When I got there, turns out we were wrong, but I thought when I got there everything was working. And so I was just like, I drove all this way. I was just kind of killing time, shooting the breeze with somebody. And I can't remember what got on the subject of Stephen King, but I started telling him about In and about the 8 stones in Ackerman's Field or whatever. And it was one of those moments where it's like I'm like excited to talk about this, and then I'm like, this guy doesn't care, and he's not as excited about this as I am.
Exactly.
All right, well, peace. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. We'll do it again soon.